All right, so that is Dr. Joshua Stefanacci. There was an objection when he described 4 wounds and when he said he couldn't describe the order, but there was a stipulation that this was Lieutenant Debra Clayton. All right, let me ask you, Lisa Lockwood, what do you think could be objected to so far? Because isn't the enemy testimony very important in any case such as this?
I'm perplexed right now because that's his job to talk about where the wounds were, where the injuries and bullet wounds are, but him not knowing exactly, one was a flesh wound in the abdomen was a little peculiar. So they have every right to talk about that. And of course, the ME would not know the order of it. He may know which one was the lethal shot, but not the order of which the body received those injuries.
I wanted to ask you about some of the bullet wounds he's talking about, especially the one back to front. What did you glean as a trained police officer in terms of weapons, shots, stippling, and all?
Right. So it looks like she was retreating and he was in the chase position. And we're going to find that also where she ends up landing on the ground, even the shots of her neck that crossed through the other side and went down into her lung and almost penetrated her back. That would have been a standing position. She would not have been lying down at that point.
We were on break. Terrence Lenneman did his cross-examination, and also there was a follow-up by the prosecutor. It turns out that 3 of the wounds were survivable. The neck wound was not. Was that wound something that was done intentionally while he's standing over her, or was it a wound done intentionally when he was shooting at her? And was that the wound that was fatal?
Yes, the neck wound was the fatal round because of the direction of travel going in through the neck and then penetrating into the shoulder and into the lung. So because of the direction of travel, the way the probing happens, you're going to see a cross body. So she would be in a standing position for that, and that was the fatal wound. She didn't bleed out right away because she continued to run. She dropped to her knees. There were abrasions on her knees, ended up on her stomach, and also took rounds in the buttocks that exited the thigh, and also the one that was in the inner thigh area.
You have analyzed crime scenes. You're a crime analyst. You're also former SWAT. What is the one area you want to know from this CSI?
I want to know where the actual shell casings were for both individuals, for our victim, Debbie, and also from Markeith Loyd, because this is going to show us the proximity of where both of them were when they shot at one another.
Lisa, before the break, I asked you what you wanted to know, and you wanted to know where the spent casings are. Now, CSI expert or crime scene analyst Karen Livengood is telling us that she has spent casings, and then she talked about a bullet, which she also called a projectile. What is the importance of this?
So we know that bullets obviously ended up in the body of our deceased police officer. So we know that those bullets and rounds were found in the autopsy, but the ones that actually exited her body, she needed to cone off. And also what she fired and did not hit any targets. So all of the cones are indicators of where the casings were, the ones that were ejected, and the ones that actually, the bullets or projectiles that came through the actual barrel of the gun and where those ended up.
Does it matter who fired the first shot if Markeith Loyd is saying self-defense?
Wow, a loaded question, pardon the pun. But if she was in pursuit of him, he was leaving, she already knew that he was a suspect in a murder, she had called for backup, and if she was in pursuit, trying to stop him from leaving, if he brandished a weapon, he turned around, he showed the weapon, and she fired first, yes, it's completely legitimate for her to do that. We know that he executed her in the end, and there were multiple rounds fired. I don't know how many she actually was able to get off before she succumbed to her fatal injuries. So we're going to find that out as we get more information from the crime scene investigator to find out how many did actually left her barrel and how many left his barrel. He had an extended clip, so it'll be interesting to find that out.
But I'm going to go to you on this because you are former law enforcement, okay? And we know that during the arrest, Markeith Loyd, I was taken down, not by this investigator, obviously. But let me ask you this. The prosecution brings this out on direct. Why do you think that is as a member of law enforcement?
Yeah, I think it's important to do that because the defense can completely lynch him based on his demeanor and the way that he went about his interrogation. Him coming forward and offering his excuses for it, so to speak. He says it's not an excuse because it was completely out of character for me, watching somebody that he knew that was close. His sister in blue succumbed to these injuries. People tend to act irrational or different than they normally would. Certainly, myself in an interrogation room with sex predators, it's very hard, child sex predators, to shelf your emotions. So it's almost like you have to gain so much composure before you walk into that room, knowing full well that it can be very heated.
I know you've been a witness in a number of cases, and Adam is giving all of us a lecture on what it's really like to try and present a case. But she did say that she was told that Markeith Loyd left in a brown car. Why do you think that is important?
Because we were able to trace that vehicle. There was a pursuit with one of the other lieutenants who actually followed him into the Royal Arcs parking area where the carjacking took place. So we're showing that that was the same vehicle that left the Walmart parking lot. He pursued the right vehicle. And then we had two different incidents there. We had a police officer who was shot upon twice, and we also had a carjacking.
Yeah, and Lisa, same thoughts?
Yeah, it's because we have him identified with the carjacker who gave a description of him. He was the same person at crime scene 1 and crime scene 2.